Hello, hello, this is Mr. Warner. This is 5.4, graphing from standard form. All right, so um, we've talked about how to graph from intercept form and from vertex form, and this is the last different form for quadratics, is standard form. We've talked a lot about that. I've always asked you to, write down your equations in standard form or simplify it and put it in standard form. So hopefully the form doesn't look really different. Okay, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Again, a, b, and c are just numbers, positive, negatives. Okay. Okay. So again, there's always like key features that are easy to find. For all the forms, the direction of opening is always easy to find. Again, that's just your A. If A is positive, the parabola opens up. And if A is negative, then it opens down. Again, thinking like happy parabola. If you're positive, if you're negative, you're probably frowny. Okay. So there's my eyeballs. Oh, let me grab those. Here's the eyeballs. All right, there you go. Okay, the other thing that you can find really easy is the y-intercept. So what do you know about y-intercept? So here's like a little graph. This could be like your y-intercept. What do we know about the y-intercept? We know that x is 0 for the y-intercept. So if you ever need to find the y-intercept for any type of equation, you can always set x equal to 0 and solve. So if we were to plug 0 in for these x's, would have what? Y equals a times 0 squared plus 0x. Sorry, what am I saying? B times 0, and then would have plus c. So all that would be 0, that would be 0. All we have is c. So the y-intercept is always that constant. Okay? So for example, b just right here, the y-intercept has got to be 0, 2. Super easy to find. Don't have to show any work. All right. Okay, next let's talk about actually graphing. So if you need to graph, the first thing that we're going to do is find the axis of symmetry. And this is the equation for the axis of symmetry. It's part of the quadratic formula. So if you remember, we had like x equals negative b, but now it's just going to be all over 2a. Okay, so this is part of the quadratic formula. When you have the quadratic formula, it comes up with, it calculates the axis of symmetry, and then it uses the plus or minus to find the x-intercepts on both sides. So that's why there's like the plus and there's the minus. So we don't need to know what the x-intercepts are. I mean, we could calculate that. We know how to do that. But we just need to know what the axis of symmetry is. So that's why it's just negative b all over 2a. Okay, so let's find that for this first example. Okay, so here a is 1. You don't see it, but there's always a coefficient. And b here is negative 6. So don't forget the sign. It goes with it. So x equals negative b, and b is negative all over 2a, so 2 times 1. Okay, so we'll simplify the top, that's 6. Simplify the bottom, it's 2. And then simplify the fraction. How many times 2 go into 6? 3 times. Okay, so again, what we're looking for here is the vertex. That would be 3 comma something. If you have an x and you need to find the y, what can we do? We did the same thing we did with intercept form. Okay, we can plug it into our equation. So y equals, we've got x, well x is 3, square it, minus 4 times x, again x is 3, plus 13. I would recommend using your calculator, and you should end up getting, I don't know, I want to double check. You could also do it by hand. This would be 9 minus 12 plus 13. So 9 minus 12. Oops, didn't turn on my calculator. 9 minus 12 plus 13. Crap, what did I do? Oh, I don't know why there's a 6 there. Sorry. My bad, that's a 6. Okay, so this would be 18. But anyways, my bad. I would just make sure you put your equation in correctly, first off, right? So, and then I would just type this into your calculator exactly. All right, so when I did that the first time, I got 10. And obviously, 10 isn't on the graph anywhere. So that's a good way to say, I probably made a mistake, okay? So I fixed that, and I end up getting, I'm going to put in the parentheses exactly. I'd put in the exponent, the 2, I'd subtract 6, and I'd use parentheses again for the 3, and then plus 13, okay? And I get 4. So that gives us our vertex. So 3 and the 4 gives us our vertex. So 3, 4 is right here. And then we just use our growth pattern. Okay, so to find more points, sorry, it's not working. More points. Use the growth pattern. 1A, 3A, 5A. So for this one, A is 1, so we'd do 1, 3, 5. So over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3. It's out of your graph after that, so you're just done. Connect those dots the best you can, and you're good to go. Okay? Sorry, I kind of flopped that, but it's always good because we always make mistakes, and hopefully you learned from it. All right, B. Why don't you pause and give this one a try? All right, so we've got axis of symmetry is negative, and this, sorry, B is negative 2. A here is negative 1. So we'd get x equals negative b, and b is negative 2. So that'll give us a positive 2. And on the bottom, it's 2 times a, so 2 times negative 1. So that gives you negative 2. And simplify that, you just get negative 1. Y, we just plug that into our equation. This is where a lot of people forget is that there's a negative, a is negative, and sometimes they forget it. So be careful, put that negative in there. And then whenever we substitute, use parentheses. So negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 2. Okay, and then again, I would just type it into your calculator. Make sure you do it exactly the same. One thing I do see a lot is people, if they do it by hand, is they say, a negative and a negative, they must multiply. And so they do something like this, or probably more like this, and then they square it, okay? But the thing is that if you simplify by hand, you have to follow order of operations. Exponents go first. So you'd need to square this, and we would get 1. But then we still have this negative, okay? You could even put a parenthesis around it if you wanted to. I guess you don't really need to, okay? So just realize that if you use your calculator and you use parentheses, then you don't run into the issue. But just make sure if you do it by hand, you use order of operations. So this should be negative 1 plus 2 plus 2. So we would get 3. So that's our vertex. So vertex, negative 1, 3. And then we'll use our growth pattern. Here A is negative 1. So we'd do negative 1, negative 3, negative 5. So over 1, down 1, over 1, down 3, and then over 1, down 5. On both sides, connect your dots the best you can. Okay, So one thing you can always check, and I think it's a great idea, is verify the y-intercept. So this is the y-intercept. Make sure it's where it hits it on the graph. Okay? So if it matches, then you got it right. Okay? All right, last two examples. These look a little different. Why do they look different? Well, for this one, C is missing. It's got to be a 0. So again, that really won't like cause issues or anything, even if you don't realize that C is 0. But it's nice to realize that we need to look for the y-intercept is 0 when you're done. Okay, so here we go. We say A is -1, B is 2. So axis of symmetry is negative b, so -2 over 2 times -1. So -2 over -2, which gives us a +1. Now we'll plug that into our equation to find y. So negative parenthesis 1 squared plus 2 times 1. Again, that's -1 plus 2, which is 1. So our vertex is 1, 1. And then we'll use our growth pattern here. Again, A is -1, so we'll go over 1, down 1, over 1, down 3, over 1, down 5 on both sides. Connect your dots. Verify that the y-intercept is indeed 0. So if we look at this graph, yep, crosses it at 0, and we're good to go. Last one, what's missing here? So this time b is 0. This would be like 2x squared plus 0x minus 1. So again, a is 2, b is 0. So if we find our axis of symmetry, it would be -0 over 2 times 2. And that just gives you 0. And then we'd still need to plug that in for our equation. So 2 times 0 squared minus 1. So this is just 0, but we still subtract 1. So our vertex here would be 0, -1, which makes sense because that's our y-intercept is -1. And then we use our growth pattern. So over 1, up 2, and then up 6. Again, the pattern is 1a, 3a, 5a. Since a is 2, then we would get 2, 6, 10. And we go up. Sorry, my parabolas haven't been doing their best recently, but gotta do your best. Okay, so I think that's about it. I think there's one more example here. If you want to go over it, go for it. I think I have it filled in on the notes on Canvas if you want to check it. Again, these key features from our first day, it's always great to do it so that you can have practice so you don't forget. I will actually go and do E right now, just in case, but you can do the key features on your own if you'd like, or look at the notes on Canvas. Alright, so here we've got x equals -2 over 2 times 1. So 2 over 2 is 1. And then we'll plug that in, so y equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. Again, you can just use your calculator, or that's 1 minus 2 minus 3, which I think gives you -4. So 1, -4. Growth pattern is 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. And it crosses at -3, so that works out great. Awesome. Okay, well, if you have questions, let me know. Stop by. I'll see you later.